Hello everybody, my name is Bill. This is the channel Rust to Resurrection. Now, I have convinced myself that this is auto-related content because in this episode, we're going to start doing an epoxy coating on the floor of my garage. So stick around if you want to see how we get this stuff done. Now to start with, I want to show you the products that I'm going to use for this project. We are going to use an epoxy-based latex floor formula for cement floors in garages. I know a lot of you may be used to the heavy thick coating with the sprinkle stuff that goes on it. We're not doing that here. That is very expensive. I don't care that much. I just want to get a nice coating on this floor so that I can keep the dust under control and the oil under control. When I spill things, I want to make sure I can clean up the oil pretty easily. Now, I've already coated some of this way in the past, and any place where there's dirt or oil, it actually wipes up pretty well. We're going to use the same paint in order to paint the entire garage floor, but we're going to go back to the beginning, and we are going to paint over the coating that was already here, and we're going to go already to the back. Now, I've heard a lot of people complain that these thin epoxy or latex epoxies or latex cement floor paints aren't very good, and I'm here to argue with you that that is not true. Down in my shop, that floor is over 20 years old. It is showing some wear, but damn, you would think so, walking over and over and over again and using it for the last 20 years, but it is still largely intact. Same in my basement. I used a latex cement floor paint in my basement, and that is largely intact. If there's a problem with this, the latex, is that if it gets wet for too long a period of time, sometimes it will peel. I'm not too concerned about that here in the garage, but that said, in the wintertime when we bring our cars in after a snowstorm, the snow will fall out of the wheel arches onto the floor. So this will be a little bit of a test to see how well that stands up. But the floor is heated so that when the snow falls, the heated floors will dry whatever moisture is there. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about what I'm using. So the components is this Drylock E1 coating. This is what I've used back here. Again, very, very robust. It seems to hold up pretty well. So that's the coating we're going to use, but we need to prep that. So the first thing we're going to do, actually, I should tell you this. We've had to separate the garage into halves. So I've moved everything from here over to there. So that half of the garage is just stuffed with stuff so that I can open this area up. So we're going to do this half, and then we're going to go do the other half when I can move everything back over here. But what we have to do is to make this coating work correctly, we have to be very conscious of the prep for this. Now, having been a woodworker all my life and doing wood coatings, I know that prep is 99%. Making sure that everything in the wood is prepped properly before we start adding coats is critical. So we need to prep this floor. So we're going to start out using my favorite grease cutter, which is Grease Lightning. None of this is sponsored, Grease Lightning. So we're going to go in and we're going to get all the oil spots taken out that we can. Once we've got those oil spots taken out, then we're going to just use some simple Dawn dishwash or dish liquid, mix that up with some hot water, and we're going to scrub that. And we're going to scrub that with a stiff bristle brush. So we got to get all the dirt and dust off the floor that we're coating right off the bat. We're going to use muriatic acid to etch the concrete. This concrete is a good 10, 12 years old, 15 years old. So it gets this powdery substance over the top. You need to get that powdery substance off before you start putting the epoxy down, because that powder will not allow the paint to etch itself or contact itself into the cement. We're going to use both a brush because I need to get down around the edges of the concrete sill, and then we're going to roll this stuff on. Now, this is going to be largely a two-person job. So my wife will be coming in and she'll be helping me out to do this. Part of what I need to do is the cracks, those expansion joints, I guess. We're going to need to get in there, get that dirt out of those. And then we got a couple places where the concrete is separating. So we'll get that pulled out. And then I got other places where the salt from the cars over the last 15 years has eaten holes into the concrete. A lot of people might go in and just kind of skim over that with a cement patch. I'm not going to do that. I don't care that much. So we are going to make sure we get those cleaned out so that this epoxy paint can get in and coat even those pockets that are missing cement. All right. First thing we're going to do is we are going to sweep this up and get it all of the largest particles that I've got scattered everywhere. So we're going to sweep this up first, then we're going to go back and we're going to vacuum it, then we're going to use the air to get into the cracks, and then we're going to use the grease lightning and the dishwashing. One of the problems with sweeping is it makes a lot of dust. Back when I was a kid, my dad would make me sweep the cellar floor, and he'd give me this bottle of water, and I'd have to go around and I'd have to shake and spritz the floor so that the dust wouldn't come all out into the cellar and get all over my mother's clothes and all on the clothesline and all that. In this case, I'm not going to try to make a lot of dust because I am going to come back in vacuum, so I just want to move the bulk of it. When I sweep back here where I did the floor coating several years ago, it doesn't raise a lot of dust. The dust really begins to happen when I sweep the uncoated part of the cement. Hoping to help that go away. So back when we built the addition on the house, when we designed the garage, I wanted to have a 3-car or 3-bay garage. And unfortunately, the layout of the landscape or the layout of the land wouldn't allow me to go 3 bays wide. So what I ended up doing was going on this side, going 2 bays deep. Now I can't get 2 full-size cars, like I couldn't get two pickup trucks end to end, but I can get 2 standard size cars in here back to back. I also initially thought I'd like to put a bay door in the back, but that was the same thing. Literally the hill rises up, so I couldn't do that. So unfortunately, if I put a car in this bay, it means I have to pull the first car out, which is first world problems. You know, I mean, it's not like it's going to destroy my life because of it. But anyway, and then I've learned that in the wintertime, that when I put things away for the winter, I can line 2 small cars here and over here side by side, and they're within inches of each other, but the cars aren't going to get moved in the wintertime. And there's plenty of room to move around in here. So I've actually had 5 cars in here when we had a severe storm years ago. They were talking high winds and destructive weather. So I actually moved 5 cars in here, and that was something to see. That there was literally no room to move anything around. So the footprint is enough so that you could squeeze a lot of stuff in here. But you know that old saying that once you build it so big, you want to just build it bigger because you keep adding more stuff. So that is again a first world problem, trying to figure out how not to put more stuff in your garage than you absolutely need. All right, so let me get this stuff swept out, and then I'll bring you back when we do the vacuum. So shortly after I retired, or actually shortly before I retired, I got into filmmaking, into recording work that I was doing down in my own shop, doing firearms restoration, building guitars. So I started to set things up so that I could do filming. And then I realized that this space in here would be an excellent film studio as long as I pulled everything out of the garage. So I set up all these different sets, if you will, or set backgrounds. So I've got the Jeep wall over there. This background here, I do both instructional videos. So behind this lighted backdrop is a blackboard that I use. So that's there. And then I also play guitar and sing. So I set this up so that I could do music videos. So I could record myself playing and singing. And I had to put some sound deadening up on the ceiling up here. And I have a carpet that goes down here when I bring the amps down, so it sort of muffles the sound. And I even do that when I do some firearms instructional videos and that kind of thing. So I've got that here. Over on this wall over here, again, it's my workbench, and I can, you've seen that. If you watch the channel long enough, you will have seen me use that workbench many times. So that's my just art wall. So anyway, so this space has become quite useful for me. Again, I have to move the cars and everything out. I got a TV up here that I often will use. I'll put scripts up so I can follow the script, or at least follow the points that I want to make in a video. So this became a really good space for a lot of things. And multi-purpose your space, guys. Don't just use it for one thing. All right, the next thing we're going to do is I need to get an air hose, and I'm going to blow out all the cracks that are filled with dust and dirt and cement. And there's going to be two people for that. My wife will come in, and she'll have to hold the vacuum while I blow out the cracks. All right, so that was a lot of work. The next thing I want to do is take some grease lightning and get some of these oil spots up. And mostly I'm just going to spray it. Even some of the dirt spots will do. Lots of oil there. Not so worried about it on the part that's already been painted. That comes up actually pretty clean, which is again why I want to coat this floor. Another thing I'm a little bit worried about and is tire hot spots. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but hot spots are when you park the car or the rubber on the coating. Sometimes it'll leave the coating or leave the tire rubber behind, and I can see some hot spots here. There's a couple hot spots in the part that was painted, but they come up pretty easy. So I'm just pouring or spraying this grease lightning on the oil spots. I'm going to let it soak for, I don't know, 5 minutes or so. And we'll come back with a brush and hot water. So basically what I'm wanting to do is just get that top layer or skim layer of oil up, and then we're going to come back and we're going to do a complete wash with some other type of soap. Again, then we'll etch it with the muriatic acid, and hopefully that'll help it adhere to where the oil spots were. We'll find out. Put on the farm boots. All right, guys, we'll bring you back when we get down to the next phase. All right, so the last wash is just going to be a common household soap. I was going to use Dawn, but Dawn is really sudsy, so I changed my mind, and we had some of this Mr. Clean soap that is much thinner, so we're going to wash it with that. This is nowhere near as sudsy. So when it comes to rinsing it, hopefully we won't have to pull quite so much off. Actually, I don't mind the smell of it. Yeah. All right, guys, we'll bring you back when we got this part done. All right, last thing to do is we're going to go in with a hose and we're going to rinse this all the way to the front of the garage. We have a squeegee, we have the high pressure from the hose, so we're going to try and push all this soap sud out the door. Let's see how that works.
Just wet it down over there.
Okay.
We're going over here.
Yep. That is a sweep, a vacuum, 2 washes. We're going to let this dry overnight, and then tomorrow we're going to come back and apply the muriatic acid and get this thing etched up so we can add some paint the day after. See you guys tomorrow. So we're going to add the acid to the water. You never want to do it the other way around. I actually had to go look that up because I couldn't remember if it was water to acid or acid to water. It's actually acid to water. So anyway, muriatic acid. So the instructions call for 24 ounces per gallon. We've got 2 gallons. That may be more than I need, but I want to make sure I got enough. So we're going to measure out 48 ounces and put it in the water. And from there, we're going to just start etching the concrete. We have to do a thorough rinse. So we're going to come back in with a hose and a squeegee, and we're going to squeegee all this stuff out again. And then this has to dry thoroughly. So it's going to have to dry 12, 24 hours. What I might do after we rinse it is I might turn the heat on the floor So this has in-floor heating in the concrete. So I may turn that up so that we can kind of push the drying on this. But anyway, let's go add some acid to water. So I got the rubber boots on, and I've got the rubber gloves. Today's not a good day to get hurt, so we're going to do it this way. So I've got a 16 ounce, so we're going to do 12 ounces in this. And we're going to do this 4 times for the 2 gallons. Boy, that fills that bucket right up. Okay. So the bottle of muriatic acid claims that this is a low odor. And I can actually say that it is, because usually when you use this stuff, it's pungent and gets right inside your nose. But this one, all right. I am not going to coat the entire pre-painted surface, but I am going to go in and put a little bit on the parts that did get bare. Ooh, look at that work. Holy moly. See this stuff turn white? Isn't that cool? All right, guys, I am going to turn you off because I don't want the cameras or anything else to get damaged by this acid, and then we're going to do the whole thing. And I'll bring you back when we do the flush. All right, the acid is all laid down. We're going to let it sit for 5-10 minutes. Then we're going to come back in with fresh water and a hose, and we're going to flush it all out the garage door and then let it dry. I'll show you what it looks like in just a second. All right, guys, it is the next day. The floor is dried. We're gonna wait a couple more days to let this thing cure before we move the cars back in, and I transfer everything that's on that side over to this side. Now, I'm not gonna film the second half because this is just basically rinse and repeat. So we're gonna just do the same thing on that half that we did on this half. This came out really stunning. I'm really pleased with this. When I get that other half done, I will post some pictures of the entire completed project on my YouTube community page. If you're a subscriber, you'll get to see all that. It'll just show up in your feed, I hope. And I'm also going to post it over on Rust to Resurrection's Instagram page when the whole garage is done. So look for it over there. Guys, I really appreciate you being here. Give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you are not already. I love you, and I will see you in an upcoming video doing something. At this point, I'm not really sure what's next on the channel. We'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.